City Council workshop in the City of Lake Elmo, Tuesday, October 14th order. First on the agenda is paid family medical leave, PFML, for Administrative Service Coordinator, Ms. Doyle, presenting.
Good evening. Mostly informational, and to just give the okay to just continue on the path we're doing now, and that will come for benefits to council next week. So a little bit of background, what is Minnesota paid leave, the options between private plan and state plan, and then some things that we're considering from the employer side. So originally, this is a state plan, originally passed in May of 2023. It sets up job protections for paid time to care for self, family, allow for new family bonding, safety leave related to domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking. Much like the federal FMLA plan, this is the Minnesota's paid leave. The family in this instant is a pretty wide net, and you can even designate, say, an elderly neighbor that doesn't have a main caregiver. You could be appointed their main caregiver and qualify. Program begins January 1st, 2026. Legislators set aside $670 million to fund this program, the startup. It will continue to be funded through employer premiums. We do have an option to have a private party rather than the state plan, but it has to be equally or more beneficial to the employee. We do need to notify employees and have signed acknowledgement that we showed them the benefits of this plan and their what's available to them. And we have to do that by December 1st of 2025. And we have to have that signed acknowledgement. My plan is to do this during our open enrollment meeting at the end of October. I will also be attending paid on-call firefighter training in November to hit all of our part-time firefighters, and then making sure that anybody that doesn't attend those two events has an opportunity to learn and sign that acknowledgement. So who's covered? Everybody. Full-time, part-time, interns, seasonal, you as elected officials, as long as they make at least 5.3% of the state's annual wage, average annual wage of $3,900 a year. Those employees that live in Wisconsin are also covered as long as 50% of their time is spent working in Minnesota. I'm not sure in reality how elected officials will qualify for this, seeing you're paid whether you're here or not, and you'd have to miss 7 events before you would qualify. So, but you are covered. So, what does it look like? You can have 1 to 12 weeks of time for medical leave for yourself, and 1 to 12 weeks for family, whether that's bonding leave for birth, adoption, or foster child, active duty for those that are being called up to active duty, caring for that family member, including anybody that you appoint, again, along as there's documentation to go with that, or that safety leave. If you have, let's say, as a pregnant female, you are on leave, on bed rest for 8 weeks, that would qualify under the medical leave. And then you would also get 12 weeks of bonding time after the child is born for a maximum of 20 weeks. Okay. The qualifying condition must last more than 7 days, and it has to be certified by a professional, and this is the same as the current family medical leave. Caveat for 2026, if you had a newborn in 2025, you will qualify, even if you had your 12 weeks of FMLA leave, you will qualify for another 12 weeks up until that baby turns 1 in 2026. So if you had a baby July 1st, you will qualify for 12 weeks of paid leave until June 30th. You can, it also qualifies for intermittent leave. So let's say you choose your bonding time Mondays and Tuesdays every week. That would qualify for intermittent leave. Little different than ESST, which is that temporary calling in, scheduling of doctor's appointments. This event has to last for more than 7 days. They'll get paid back to day one, but you have to be out at least 7 days.
I'm so sorry. Can you say that one more time? So was that differentiating between ESST and and the PFML?
Correct.
So the ESST, that can be for less than 7 days.
Correct.
Where PFML, 7 days or greater, otherwise you have to use ESST or PTO or,
Correct.
okay.
The application process. Employees will be required to notify the employer. This is actually one of the first questions they'll come across, whether it's on the state plan or the private plan, that they have to notify the employer first. They'll apply directly through the state or the third-party provider, much like our disability leave now. All necessary claim paperwork will also be handled with that provider. There will be communication between the state and the employer, or the third-party provider and the employer. Premiums. So the state plan premium for 2026 is 0.88% of the payroll wages, which is approximately $35,500 for the city of Lake Elmo. Employers can charge employees a portion of the premium back to them. It cannot be over 50% of that premium. So 0.44 paid by the city, 0.44 paid by the employees through a payroll tax. So that kind of brings the cost down to $17,750 for the city. If we choose to go over a 50-50 split, that benefit is now taxable on the employee. What does that look like? So if an employee is making $60,000 a year, their premium would be $264 a year, or approximately $10.15 per payroll. If they're making $100,000, that's $440 a year, or $16.92 a payroll. Talking with peers in other cities, majority of them are doing the 50-50 split. We would need to talk with labor unions and sign a MOU with this caveat of 50-50.
Just one quick question on that too. So the $440 per year, that would be the 50% paid by the city, and there'd be another $440 paid by the employee?
Correct.
Okay.
If we go through a third-party provider, which we just got those proposals back, the most attractive one to us that is cheaper will pay the FICA tax on any medical leaves. The employer portion of that would also be covered. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. That rate comes in at 0.76 as the wages, which is a 0.38 split, bringing that cost down for the employee and the employer from $10.15 a payroll for $60,000 down to $877. Making $100,000, it brings that per pay period cost from $16.92 to $14.62. Again, these are very rough numbers, but. So what does the payment benefit look like? Based on current wages, you would get paid between 55 and 90% of your wages, up to the state max average weekly wage of $1,423 per week. It's approximately $74,000.
What's that $74,000 on?
That's the average weekly wage in the state. So all the payments are based on that average weekly wage. So if you're earning less or equal to 50% of that wage, you will earn 90% of your income. So if you're making $35,000 a year, 90% of that would be about $605 a week. If you're earning at least 50% to 100% of that $74,000 in a year, you'll earn 66% of your wages. If you're making $55,000 a year, that would be approximately $869 a week. If you're exceeding that $74,000 a year, you will receive 55% of your income. So if you're making $90,000 a year, your weekly wage will be $1,279. No one will exceed that $1,423 max, which is approximately $104,000 a year is where you'll hit that $1,423. It is a taxable earning. If we do the state plan, the state will have the employee opt into either taking, I shouldn't say either, 5% for state and 10% for federal income tax on those. If we do a third-party provider, they will not take out state tax, but they will take out federal. Payment benefit and para. Minnesota paid leave dollars are not considered para-eligible earnings. So an employee would have to purchase their salary and service credits during that leave, which is the employer cost, or the employer portion, the employee contribution, plus any interest that would be earned. So the state plan and the private plan. The advantages of a private plan. Carrier experience with leaves. This third-party provider that we're looking at is an insurance company, much like your disability payments. They're used to these types of leaves in different states currently. The payment process will be most likely faster for employees. I'm not 100% confident in the state plan and how they're setting up questions I've asked and the responses. I worry that it will take a while for an employee to actually get any payment. Premium rate is locked with a private plan for up to 2 years. Some play the required FICA tax, which our option, that was the best option, would pay that FICA tax on behalf of the employer. So that's one more thing that the employer would not have to worry about. And the cheaper premiums. Disadvantages of a private plan. There is a $500 fee to opt out of the state plan. And we would have to have ancillary benefits with the provider. So short-term, long-term, some of those benefits that we currently have, we would switch providers. Turns out for us, it's not necessarily a disadvantage because between Minnesota paid leave and the premium differences for short-term, long-term dental, and life, we would be saving the city approximately $10,000.
Could you
Go ahead.
explain, because that is where I'm trying to
Yep.
figure out how all these play together, and do other benefits change as a result now that we're gonna be offering PFML, and it's gonna be, it sounds like kind of covering similar things that maybe other benefits would. So you're saying that by implementing PFML with the state plan, we'd be able to modify other benefits, short-term disability, maybe that's the only one, modify other benefits that would produce savings ultimately for the city.
So not modify them, but we would change who we're currently with and put them under the same provider, third-party provider.
Okay, and by bundling them
By
together.
bundling them, it's a rate savings.
That's the
Yes.
savings. Okay, and
Yes.
maybe we'll get into it too, but do the other benefits get modified as a result? Is there, double coverage essentially?
Right, so the only coverage that kind of doubles up would be that short-term disability. It is in our union contracts that we provide that short-term disability. The rates for that, however, will drop to nearly nothing because the providers know you're most likely not going to use it. You could use it if you had an employee that exhausted all their Minnesota paid leave
Sure.
and then had another event. Because short-term disability pays 60% of a max of $1,400, it's less than what the state's gonna pay, so it's not gonna pay out.
Okay.
But even with keeping a modified short-term disability plan, we're still saving money in the long run. Currently, our short-term disability runs from 7 days until 160 days. Our long-term doesn't kick in until 180 days. So we have a 20-day gap of no income. Switching these plans, short-term would be from 7 days to 90 days, and our long-term would now kick in after 90 days. So that's also a benefit that there's not that gap. And long-term increases a little bit with that change, but it still balances out and we're still saving money.
And the PFML would be 90 days as well. 7 to 90?
It's 12 weeks, right, it's 12 weeks,
So about
but if,
90.
right, it's
Okay.
about 90 days unless you're using it as an intermittent type of leave, correct.
Okay. And then I'm sorry,
You're fine.
just with the last slide, you mentioned that it would be taxed, state and federal. That's only if the benefit is used, correct? It's not getting
Correct.
taxed when we're putting that
Correct.
into the plan. It's-
Correct.
If it's used, you get,
Yep, those earnings are
taxed for it.
taxable
Okay,
earnings.
got it.
Correct.
and then I guess that my next question was with this, the intermittent bonding, or you mentioned intermittent bonding time or the intermittent use. So, because you had mentioned, right, the ESST, there's no minimum length of time that you have to take, where with PFML, it has to be 7 days or greater. So with the intermittent time, I guess, how does that work? Is that you have to work with your employer to say, hey, I'm gonna be taking 21 days over the next 10 weeks
Right.
intermittently and have it planned out, or?
Right, so it's a total of 12 weeks, it's not point A to 12 weeks. So for example, let's say
Okay.
your spouse is getting chemotherapy every Monday for the next 6 months.
Sure.
We have the documentation, certified documentation from a professional. You have a schedule that you know, and it could switch, it could change, but you have a set schedule that you think you're going to abide by. So that could last 6 months, but you're only using 1 day a week. Again, you won't qualify until that 7th week.
Okay.
7 days missed. And then it kicks in, but you still get paid back to that first day absent.
Okay. It's coming together a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's very confusing and they've changed a few things and so.
That was helpful. That cleared up for me. Thank you.
On your slide where you have the payment of benefit, I think your numbers are wrong. When you go to the 55,000 a year, that's about a little over 1,000 a week. And so it'd be more like 689 if you're getting 66% of that. That's about 1,000 a week. And for the 90,000, that's about 1,700 a week, so it'd be more like 800 something if you're getting 55%.
I'd have to rerun the numbers, but I can check on those for you.
I just,
Yeah, there's a calculator actually on the state site. And actually, that's where I pulled these numbers from. So maybe their
Yeah.
calculator could be off.
It just doesn't add up based
yeah.
on 66% of, like say 55,000, just a shade over 1,000 a week. And 66% would be, about 700 a week. Anyway,
I'll rerun, yeah, I'll definitely rerun those. Those are from the calculator on the state's website, so. But I appreciate you pointing that out, and I will double check those.
I didn't know if it was, if it meant there was a step, was like 90% of the less than amount, and then 66% of the amount over. I didn't know how they calculated it. Okay, we can look at that later.
Yeah.
I was just confused by the numbers.
Yep, I will definitely look at that, thank you.
And one question about, it said the advantage for private was a faster payment for employees. What does that mean exactly, faster?
Right. So the providers have been doing paid leaves. They have a system in place. This is what they do. The state plan is just implementing all of this. They're saying it would take 5 days for payment. With the interactions I've had with the state, I'm a little doubtful that that goal is gonna be met. At least once in the beginning that it's up and running,
Right,
so,
okay, thank you.
all right. Again, this is that short-term disability question, so, again, it is in our union contract through 2026 that we provide that benefit. And we will look at that once contracts come up next year, so. Supplemental income through use of accrued time. So one of the questions that we have to answer is, do we allow employees to use their accrued time to offset or supplement their earnings that they're getting from the state with what they would normally receive? I would be in favor of this. Keeps employees' income consistent and encourages the use of their accrued time. Our current policy does state if they have the time, they have to use it, but we can't force them to use it for paid leave, so. What does Lake Elmo need to decide? Will we allow the use of that supplemental income? I would say yes, that we should move in that direction, but defer to you. Will we use a private third-party plan or use the state plan? I think because of the cost savings and the opportunity to have all of our ancillary benefits under one provider, I would recommend using that third-party provider.
Is that third-party provider also our insurance plan or no?
It is not. It's Mutual of Omaha, and we don't have any of our plans with them right now.
Okay. Are there other companies in the private world offering that
Yes.
besides Mutual of Omaha?
Yes, our broker did RFPs
Yeah,
and compared a few plans, and Mutual of Omaha is the one that came in with the best bang for the buck with
Okay.
what they offer. So, and it's a 2-year rate lock. The state can increase their premium next year up to 1.1% of payroll. So we are locked in at that 0.76 for 2 years if we sign with a third party. And then what percent of the premium will we put on the employees? Are we gonna split that 50-50?
and so if we don't, never mind.
I think we have to cover 50%.
Right.
Correct.
To do more,
We do more, but then
Then it's
that's
taxed on
taxed,
that.
right?
It's now a taxable benefit for them.
Yeah.
okay, so I do have a question still, and maybe you did answer this already, I just didn't quite catch it, but can the short-term disability benefits be stacked with the PFML to help make up the difference? So if the PFML is covering 66%, short-term disability cover the remainder?
No, so the way short-term disability works is it pays out, looking at other income that would be coming in. So they won't pay more than 60% of the income, and they won't pay over $1,400. So if you're earning, if you're making $35,000 a year, you're already receiving 90% of your income, so it's just not gonna pay.
Okay, and even if short-term disability would have to pay a lesser amount than that to make up the difference between what PFML, that's not, they can't be
No.
stacked together to
Correct. It comes
increase
to
the
their
total amount.
total income,
Okay.
considering other payments being received.
Got it, okay, that makes sense.
Any other questions?
No, thank you for that update.
I'm just making sure the plan to move forward with a third-party provider, saving the city money is the direction I should still continue.
Do you mind just going back to the slide with those 3 questions?
Yeah,
So as I was looking through this, I think my thought is, I agree with the private third-party plan. I think for the reasons you stated, plus the decrease, I guess I didn't even see that. Maybe that was in the pack and I just missed it. I mean, that's a nice benefit that when we kind of revamp the whole benefit package, it's actually gonna be a savings to the city with more coverage really than what the employees were having before. So I agree that the private third-party plan seems to be best. I think the splitting at 50-50, again, I'm completely on board with that. The only one I'm a little up in the air with is allowing the use of supplemental income to compensate. My challenge here, like in an industry where somebody's like directly producing revenue, I absolutely think that this would not make sense to allow it to be used for supplemental. And in roles where maybe it's not directly revenue producing, I think it could make sense. So I'm a little bit up in the air on that one, so I guess I'm kind of looking to see what everyone else thinks on the supplemental income portion. I think I could go either way with this one, especially since we don't really have any roles that are, you know, your time is directly revenue producing, and, you know, in that situation, I'm really against it, but we don't really have any roles like that. Now, yes, we'd still have to, for the fire team, I mean, you know, someone's gonna have to make up that time, so the city's spending more money on additional staff during that time. So just trying to balance the cost to the city, well, you know, making sure we're still offering the right benefits.
Yeah, I tend to agree to go with the third party, and then, the, 50/50's fine. I always look at vacation, comp time, somebody's banking some hours, they've worked some overtime. I mean, they put in the time, and really those are, what I consider benefits, and kind of leave the ownership up to, the management and the, employee on how to use those benefits, cause if you use the vacation or comp time for something that's sick or whatever, just to keep up with your pay, I don't have a problem with that, cause that's just something they won't be able to use later on, so they're making a decision on when to use that. And I know that in private companies that I've worked for, if they're doing something, they are allowed to use PTO to, you know, maybe they burn up all their PTO trying to make up that gap for a significant illness or something like that. So I don't really have a problem with the use of supplemental income from these other sources to make up that gap, if that's what they need to do. That's a decision they need to make for their, you know, their house or their home or their family, right? So I don't have a problem with that.
I think letting them use a supplemental income is actually a benefit to the city. You know, one, the employee doesn't lose income, which doesn't put them in a difficult position, and they can focus on getting better, getting their loved one better. Number two, they have that vacation leave time coming anyway. So if they take it during this leave, it won't be available when they come back. We'll have them on the job more of their time. If we don't allow them to use it, they're gone for this 12 weeks or 20 weeks or whatever it takes. Then they come back and they still have all their vacation and paid leave, and they've suffered an economic loss. So I think the employee could decide, you know, in their own mind, first, I don't want to lose the income. I need the money to make my house payment, pay my kids' college tuition, or whatever it might be. And secondly, we benefit because when they do come back, we have them on the job more frequently.
Right.
And I think normally I would, I agree. I think the part that I have a hard time with is the state is kind of stepping in here and saying, you're going to get this benefit, right? And it's gonna be paid, versus if we didn't have these additional benefits that we are having to offer, then yes, absolutely, it makes sense for them to use their PTO in these situations.
Well, under the Family Medical Leave Act, Federal Act, you can make employees take their supplemental, their leave, paid time off, vacation, whatever, during that period until it's exhausted. That's the federal side of it.
Sure.
So let's say my primary concern is you have an employee who has some major illness or problem, and now they're in a situation where they can't survive financially because we're not allowing them to fill that gap. That's my primary piece. The flip side benefit that they'll be in the job more frequently once they return is just a benefit we get for
Okay.
allowing them the benefit of not losing income.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. That's, makes sense.
Of course, I said it.
Oh, boy. Well, you, Councilmember Cragness, any input?
You know, I second a lot of what you guys are saying here. I completely agree that you should be able to use that supplemental income. I think using the third party for, along with that, or use the private third party and the percentage being split 50-50, I think the staff recommendation here, I'm in line with, so.
Good enough for you?
Good enough for me.
All right, sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the Old City Hall Facility Review by Community Development Director Stopa.
All right, good evening. Here talking about the old city hall. And just the background on it, it's was built in 1986 and it's a little bit over 2,800 square feet on a 1.5 acre site. It's a single-story wood frame building with a shingle roof. As you all know, that we moved into the new city hall in 2023. That building has been leased from time to time, but is currently considered vacant. It is used for meeting space at times. The building needs considerable repair according to the space needs study from 2017, which was included as an attachment. Another thing to bring up is the EDA in their work plan plans to review all surplus publicly owned property in 2026. But this process will also go to the Parks Commission, the Planning Commission, and obviously to the council. We get calls from time to time about facilities or just lots in the city. So really the issue before the council is, big picture is, what does the council want to do with the building? And I came up with 6 options. I'm sure there's more options here, but this is just kind of start the conversation. What you think would make the most sense, but one of the first ones is we hear is demolish the building for green space and retain or eliminate the existing parking lot. 2 would be demolish the building and expand the parking lot. 3 would sell the building for business use. We could let people know that it is available and try to determine the interest. Parking could be located in the back, or a new parking lot could possibly be placed in the front, but it would be fairly small. Lease the building to a business, same issues with parking. We could keep the building and revisit the issue next year. The other thing too, it's kind of similar, but monitor the school site and potentially partner with them, with the future developers on the school site. So the space needs study in 2017, if you haven't read it, it was basically trying to determine where the new city hall should go, kind of combining fire station. There was different options. But what they did was they evaluated the old fire station and basically said, the old city hall, and they basically said that there were $1,000 of urgent issues, 862,000 of short-term issues, a little bit over 80,000 midterm, and 38,000 long-term issues. And that 420,000 of the short-term issues are related to the exterior envelope. Just from talking to staff, I don't think much work has been done on the building since then. So one thing, if it's gonna be retained, we should probably get new numbers and just figure out exactly what needs to be repaired. But this was from 2017, so it's not that old. Something to bring up too is just the yearly maintenance costs, just of the electric, gas bill. Just real basic costs. It's right under $2,000 a year since it's no longer fully occupied. And the insurance though has gone up to just under $7,000. Talking to staff, the insurance cost went up because it's considered vacant and it is a higher risk for vacant property. So what I'm gonna do here is just give you staff comments. I sent this out because I know fire is and Public Works had looked at this in the past, so we wanted to just get everybody's input. So demolish the building for green space and retain or eliminate the existing parking lot is a good option as it accommodates parking for certain events. The green space could be used for events or stormwater ponding if our current ponds are failing. I would strongly support option 2, demolish the building, expand the parking. An additional 30-plus parking stalls would improve City Hall's ability to host meetings, conferences, elections, alternative parking location during snow removal, public parking during events in the area near Kokoro, National Night Out, tree lighting, 4th of July parade, the 101 anniversary celebration. Existing parking, the existing asphalt on the old City Hall parking lot is failing and it needs significant patching
Somebody
every
just
spring.
slapped it.
I didn't catch that one. at
Somebody
first.
just slapped in 101 anniversary
Yeah.
They
celebration.
must have liked it.
The 101?
The 101.
Yeah. These are quotes from staff.
That's good.
I would advocate for option 2, demolish the building and expand parking for the same reasons stated above, but with a single access into the lot across from the current lot entrance. And we'll talk about that more later on about the access issues. I'd like to get back to the original site plan without the access and cut out to the current parking lot. The amount of upcoming maintenance to that building and internal systems will be costly. Option 2 allows parking, although it is relatively far from where village events would be held, but it could be useful for City Hall events. I think there are ponding requirements for a larger parking lot versus what we could do in option 1. So that also came up with Valley Branch requirements and impervious surface. A sale option may be problematic once you begin to look at potential layouts, current or future. The city has several important encroachments onto the property that would need to be addressed in detail and preserved as part of any sale. These encroachments may also place restrictions on the full use of the property. There is an attachment, the exhibit was in the packet. City Hall driveway encroachments along the northern property line, water main and sanitary sewer easements along the southeast property line, and stormwater management for the commercial area, including City Hall along the west property line. Selling the building for business use could conflict with fire, police access if the parking lot is not relocated and there's high traffic. It's zoned public facilities institutional, so the uses are very limited unless we change zoning and future land use. But based on how the last RFP went, this could be a great option. New access from Laverne does not appear to meet access spacing requirements, so developing the site independently together with all the site restrictions above may not be feasible. However, if the school and Fury Motors redevelop, the site could potentially fit into and be useful as part of the larger redevelopment project, accessing the larger site redevelopment internally, so not using our access that currently exists. Just going through the options one more time and kind of looking at the pros and cons of each, and if you have any questions or comments, chime in. But demolish the building for green space, retain or eliminate the existing parking lot. Pros that we're considering are just provides more green space. It's a one-time cost to demolish. It allows the city to wait while incurring minor costs. Could be used for stormwater ponding if current ponds fail. Cons, doesn't provide additional parking. There is a cost to demolish, and it reduces the site value, the value to the structure, and there's no additional taxes earned. Option 2 would be to demolish it and then expand the parking. One-time cost to demolish provides more parking, allows access away from the restricted emergency vehicle entrance. And then the cons, cost to demolish and to construct the parking lot. It wouldn't increase the site value, no additional taxes, and it could have stormwater requirements that were not considered at this moment. We don't really know the impact that could have with Valley Branch. Option 3, sell the building to a business. Pros, no cost to demolish, would increase site value, would generate taxes, reduces potential for more parking. These are the cons. Business parking would have to be located between Laverne and the building. Access would most likely be through City Hall's entrance off Laverne. Increased traffic adjacent to the emergency vehicle access. Utility easements could restrict use, and we could have stormwater requirements. Lease the building, there's no cost to demolish, would increase site value, could generate sales tax. Retaining ownership could provide site flexibility in the future. Reduces potential for more parking. Business parking would have to be located between Laverne and the building. Access would most likely be through City Hall's entrance. Really the same thing with the sale, it's pretty similar. And then the keep and revisit is just, there's no cost to demolish right now. Retaining ownership could provide site flexibility in the future. The cons, it reduces potential for more parking now. a cost to maintain related to uncertain timing, so we'll be continuing to pay those costs. And then monitor the school site and partner with future developers. So for the pros, it would retain ownership or possibly sell. The development could receive more housing density if they partnered with us. Could provide site flexibility in the future. It could be a parking lot or some other use. The site could be accessed through the abutting parcel, so you don't have the site access. The city would receive funds potentially to develop the site if we work with a developer. And the adjacent parcel value should increase because of the increased density. So the cons would be uncertain timing and use. The new owner may not want to partner with the city, and we may not, they may not need a housing density increase depending on what their project is. So those are some of the cons. And the really recommendation is just a discussion on what the council thinks they want to do moving forward. And like I said, if there's other options that you're considering, just any discussion on the topic would be great.
So I had one thought, and this might be a terrible thought, so just tell me, but Chief Kills, could this be used as a training facility for putting out small fires or clearing rooms, things like that?
We'd give that building its money's worth for about 6 months to a year. We could probably squeeze some things out of there, but long-term, no. We have
Okay.
the training site in, East Metro Training Site in Maplewood that we would use. We could go through a building like this for a short period of time,
Sure.
for maybe about a year and get some internal, external training on it, but not a whole lot, nothing that we would be able to sustain long-term.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Perhaps we could save the demolition costs if it was a training fire.
We'd, given its current location, I think we'd have a difficult time having that go on with our neighbors around here, but.
That's true.
Just a thought.
We do it the 101st,
Right.
We
A
need
whole
fireworks
new
then.
type of demo, yeah.
There you go.
fireworks.
So the second exhibit in there, Jason, is that, it shows a new public roadway?
There should be a GIS with utilities, and
Yeah.
then there's basically one, this one most likely wouldn't work with access spacing.
Okay.
This one is the one that comes in our access.
Yeah,
We'd have to
that-
create an easement and allow them to
Yeah,
come in.
because that other parcel to the south of the old city hall is school district property, right?
That is, and
I think some conversation with the commercial owner directly to the south might have some benefit. I mean, my sense is selling it is probably the right decision, but I think if it was some discussion perhaps on an option with the developer to the south, he may say, no, we're not interested at all, or whatever, okay.
Are you talking about the old Fury site?
Yeah,
Yeah, but there's a gap between that and the old city hall.
is there a gap? I'm sorry, I
there
misunderstood
is.
that.
So we could work with the school district and
Yeah.
whoever they bring in as their developer. I believe they plan to sell it, though. I don't think they're working on an RFP. I believe they're listing it and selling it.
Yeah, it just, in some ways, as a standalone business sale, it's fairly restrictive, I don't disagree. You might find maybe a single, sole practicing attorney or someone who might have some interest like that, but, my sense is selling it and putting it back on the tax rolls is our best long-term interest. I just don't know enough about how you might develop it, it's,
One of the things that came up is it's possible, we haven't explored this, but if the city wants a parking lot, they could get the parking lot and partner with the developer. So they benefit from the density and we benefit from having the parking lot. So that's part of that option 6. We would start looking at ways that it would benefit the city.
What, because I know once you go beyond the cut where the front parking lot here has the access to Laverne on the south side, it's no vehicle entry to the west beyond there. So really anything parking wise, I mean, I don't know how maybe you move the no vehicles, maybe you move that back to the west a little bit, but, and create an access maybe, directly across from the south part of the city hall parking lot. That, following me there?
The access would come in through the existing parking lot and then immediately go to the,
You gotta go to
Left?
the south, yeah, you'd have to take a left, where that tree is now. Just because we have the do not enter posts
right.
there, right?
And that was a concern brought up by, fire too, is just the traffic going back and parking in the
Yeah.
back.
You'd have to cordon that off towards the front.
In working with a developer, though, it's possible that that street would most likely become 37th if it was a large housing development and connect to the 37th that's going into North Star. So if it was a partnership, you could bring that access through that 37th, which is just a private road right now.
Oh, sure.
What are some of those short-term repairs that it's adding up to over $800,000?
I wish I knew all of them. There is a section, I believe, in that study that has a breakdown from the
Okay.
contractor. I can get back to you on that. I believe I did attach the entire document, though. I think it's in the appendix.
Okay.
Kind of a interesting fact, Susie sent me the article from when the building was built, and they built it for $150,000, which is just crazy to think that the cost to improve some of the exteriors but I guess just as, obviously the staff was pretty heavily focused on option number 2 with demolishing it. I guess I think I'm more in favor of not demolishing it, and I guess 4, 5, and 6 all seem like kind of the options I'd prefer. 4 with leasing, so we still have a little bit of control. If we can't get somebody to lease it, then great, then it kind of bleeds over to 5 and 6 where we're just revisiting it next year, monitoring what happens with the school site, the Fury site. Because I think especially like as those develop, at that point, if we want to sell it, I think that, whoever's looking, if we do the RFP process again at that point, I think it would be a little bit more clear to whoever's purchasing what they could do with it there. I think the value of it would go up. So I think we could sell it for quite a bit more. And then in the meantime, with leasing it, again, yeah, an attorney or some kind of quieter use there, I think could be a great way to keep a pretty historic building that was built by the residents and kind of leave the options on the table for us over the next couple of years as we see that area develop.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm leaning more towards option 6 because I'd like to just hold on and see what happens with that school site and the Fury site, just to see, what pops up and give us that flexibility of having a 1.5 acre lot. But that is just my opinion right now of option 6.
Unless I'm missing something too with, with clearing the space for the parking, is it that essential that we get that space cleared for parking, for how the building's been used? What
So
the
we had that
fires?
event recently. There were multiple groups here. I don't recall what the
It might have even just been last week.
Yeah, parking is an issue here. Just myself, if we host any sort of additional cities that come in, we have an issue with parking. We'll have staff move their vehicles into that lot, or but we still have issues with it. Fire chief probably can speak. He probably has more events where parking's an issue, but you're right with us allowing the use of the community room here or in the old city hall at any moment. Council meeting night, parking's gonna be a challenge, and then, as you know, the streets are marked no parking, so limited options. But do you have any more comments about parking?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's our last hope for any future parking expansion around here, you know? We control the parcel, so that's obviously in our best interest to always kind of control that parcel as long as we can. Whether it's completely controlled by us or in the future, you know, some of it goes off to something else. I mean, I've got emails back in April of 2022 with the project team where the old City Hall was never meant to be kept. It was kind of it really was kind of a last minute thing to say, let's keep it. I mean, I remember, you know, trading some emails just on what kind of curb we were gonna do, because the curb line was just gonna go across and completely wall off the parking lot, because old City Hall was gonna be demoed once this building got open. And it was real last minute that it was kept. It creates some challenges for us back there with our fire truck and sheriff's department movement coming off the south side of the building. We don't have a lot of room there, and allowing that access into the current parking lot there creates challenges for us, especially when we are hosting bigger groups in that building. They're going in there and then they're overflow parking into the staff space, and just our day-to-day shift movement out of there, you know, does create some challenges, so.
And what's the best case scenario for how many spaces we could get in that space?
We haven't run the numbers yet, but I guess one of the challenges would be the impervious surface and Valley Branch and everything. That's come up. We don't know if we can max out the site, but it's a considerable amount of parking if you maxed out 1.5 acres.
Yeah, okay.
And then that image on page 8, that red box just west of Laverne, that's showing where potentially additional parking could be added if we kept the building.
Or, yeah, maybe. Then there's one above that.
I think you referring to this drawing, I think the drawing was just to show the access.
Well, and then I guess the
think that-
one on the next page, but,
Yeah, there's one with like a squiggly line.
where it's like,
without.
looks like it's gotten rid of
I
the,
think it was to demo that because it's in poor condition. I think
And
the
then-
idea there is it could also, it could be pond, like a ponding area, if that's required to.
in
That circle, like the squiggly area or the circle.
that could be the pond.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I guess, could that be an alternative then if we did decide that lease the building, use the funds that would have been used to demolish it to instead create a parking area in the front of the old city hall, between Laverne and the old city hall, you know, to create additional parking spaces for whoever would lease it. You know, potentially could be, you know, with the lease agreement, spaces for the city hall as well. If we didn't have to pond, then you could keep the parking behind specifically for fire, Washington County Sheriff use, or, you know, city event use. I guess, I don't know if maybe that's, when I saw that image, that's kind of what I thought was trying to be depicted there, but maybe that's not.
I mean, that is a possibility. If there is access going to the current site, then there could be parking in the front potentially. It's not gonna be many spaces, but if you wanted to retain the parking in the back, you could remove it.
What's the ideal amount of additional spaces that we're looking for?
I mean, I don't have that number. I know the last meeting, there was another meeting in the community center, and I believe there were people in the old, city hall, and it
Sure.
was maxed out completely. I think there was maybe a couple openings in the back, but I don't think people park there because it's a
Right.
restricted area. So I don't have the number on what we would be looking for, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor, do you recall why, because like what Chief was saying there, how it was intended to be demolished after completing the new city hall, and then it sounds like kind of last minute was pulled. I mean, was there,
There was never a discussion that came to council about that.
okay, it was just kind of in the plans as the new city hall was being developed.
I think it was just kind of a late administrative decision
Yeah.
to keep it, because I don't think there weren't a lot of wasn't a lot of concern on what was gonna happen next. We kind of crossed that hurdle quick and just kind of moved on from it. And we'll kind of pick that topic back up down the road.
Okay.
I just get the feeling that there's no answer that just like says, ta-da, this is it, this is what you do, right? Cause I get the point of maybe keeping it for maybe some sort of future development. I get the parking issue. I think that the building itself, its value as a building is not that high. Just having been in that building for quite a while. I don't know if you guys,
I've never been in there.
yeah, so.
Been in there.
You've been in there, yeah. It just, it was never meant to be able to, the design was so that it would not be easy to, increase space in City Hall. So, architecturally, so, just reading through some of the report on what's needed, you know, it's the electrical, it's air exchanger, it's ventilation, it's power, it's just all the things that you kind of need to do to make a space that's, I mean, the bones are probably just fine. It's the windows and the roof and
Siding,
yeah, it's all that stuff that's probably, is it $800,000? I have no idea, but it's not a cheap fix. Do we have any idea on what the cost to raise that building is?
We haven't got that number.
well, maybe what we need to get a better understanding is what are the parking needs? If we truly have parking needs here at City Hall, that we have to meet, you know, today and going to the future, I'm not opposed to going along with a parking lot there. I think, we have to get some sense of what would be that need, and then, you know, crazy part of me says, in the interim, maybe what we need to do is cannibalize the building and quit incurring expenses. Do we need to continue to heat it and have electricity and those kinds of things? You know, you can go in there and dump antifreeze in the toilets and traps and things like that, and so it won't freeze up and bust, shut off the water, shut off the electricity, shut off the heat, and minimize our expenses, while we then go take a look and evaluate what our parking needs truly are. And if that whole space needs to be used for parking to make our city hall effective and functioning, that may be the best choice.
Guess it would be interesting to entertain the idea of maybe not with the access coming out on Laverne, but the access coming from through the south parking lot. If there's, I don't know how you do any sort of market research to see if that building would be useful to a company as far as in selling it and having a business in there and putting it on the taxable roll. Maybe it turns out that it doesn't really have that value. In that case, then I think your decision's pretty easy, but I think without knowing if that's what kind of revenue stream or what might be interested in that, it's kind of hard to make a call on that. I mean, the easy button is take the building down and expand parking, that's just, okay, but I think that eliminates opportunities too. So I'd like to know if those opportunities exist. I don't know how to
I
answer
think
that question.
one thing that could be really appealing for this, and it could be a win-win, is if, you know, if we want to create some revenue from it, but we also want to keep the options available to see what develops with the Fury, with the old school. Something that would be very lucrative to any business is a shorter lease term. I mean, Woodbury, you can't get anything for shorter than 10 years. And for a lot of new businesses, that's pretty daunting. So, you know, to your question, I think there would be a lot of interest with the types of businesses, you know, the small businesses that Lake Elmo draws. I think there could be significant interest for somebody looking to lease that for a 1-year contract, a 2-year contract, buying us some time to kind of see what happens around the area. And
But in the short term, you need to address the parking, because we don't want people coming in to access the back parking lot for that building, so there's
so if we're
a,
gonna go
there's
the
an
lease,
investment
you'd have to.
that you'd have to do on the front side.
And
The
also
question I
something,
would have is, given its current condition, is it in fact leasable?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, is
I mean-
how much would have to be put in to make it leasable? What kind of terms do you have? How much improvements is the tenant doing?
I think as far as additional parking for events and things like that, it's a little bit of a stretch. It seems like it's a little far from, for people who, I mean, certainly some people will go park there and walk across 14, but, I don't think it's as high as,
I guess just thought here, I mean, too, if we did create the smaller portion of the parking lot with maybe the access actually from the entrance into the city hall, I mean, what's keeping us from then in the future, if we say, yep, you know what, this building does need to be demolished, you just expand it further
Right.
into, you know, what's drawn above.
you could, yep, that's exactly what I was
So
thinking.
it's not really a lost cause either, if we just
No.
would say, hey, you know what, we're gonna build 1/3 of this parking lot, make it accessible, so then whoever wants to lease the building can use that, there's additional parking spaces. If no one leases it, well, then the city hall has more parking spaces, and if someone does lease it, well, you know, now the city has a nice revenue.
Do you have
stream.
any idea on how you could see if it's even leasable?
if it's, I'd like occupiable or if people would
Yeah.
like it. I think we probably want to get a contractor out and John, you know, our building
Yeah, yeah.
official, we can look at it. I
So-
think for just if people want, you know, putting out an expression of interest, not an RFP, but just letting people know to come contact us.
Yeah.
And could be flexible, just to see if there's any interest.
So it'd be nice to know if that's possible, and it would also be nice to know what the potential cost for parking lot on that front side would be, and maybe what all that entails, you know, with where do we gotta take the water drainage, and what's that gonna include? Cause there's like a little wet area in between the school district. Cause there's that little bridge by that parking lot, there's a little ditch or something there, right?
On the map, you can see it too. It's
Yeah.
low too. So
Yeah.
you probably have 20 to 30 feet where you wouldn't want to place the parking on
Right.
that.
Right. So I think some of that information would be good to have before really coming up with an answer.
Maybe we could start by having John Taylor take a look at it and tell us, is it habitable the way it stands right now? Because if it has a lot of code violations and you couldn't get a CO to occupy it, then, you know, I think that makes one decision for us, because we
Yeah.
probably don't want to spend a couple $100,000 to bring it up to habitability, you know what I mean?
Can you have it a little-
And then that maybe tells us what our other option is now. Is it, do we take it down and develop it, or do we make a parking lot there? Maybe
Yeah.
there's some combination where it's a smaller type, commercials thing, and there's shared parking between the commercial, you know,
Maybe.
if it's an accountant's office and it's 2 accountants in there, and they wouldn't need much parking.
Yeah, I just think we need some more information.
I mean, the same, I think, with the ponding as well, right? I mean, I hate to knock the whole thing down, and we'd have to pond half of it, and we don't really get that much parking out of it anyways.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, more information.
Would you be interested in hearing from potential businesses if they'd be willing to put in X amount into the property, and that way the city's not putting it, and if it does
For like a
sell,
purchase?
it would be a lease, but
Lease.
they would
An
basically pay for the improvements, but if we did sell,
Yeah.
they would essentially get that money back in the sale.
Right.
They would,
Right.
Sure.
yeah, if you're talking about like a short-term lease,
Yeah, it would be interesting, yeah.
just.
I mean,
okay.
it's more info, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
I
the
feel like
ti-
with the RFP process, I mean, you probably have a lot of potentially interested parties that, you know, are looking to do some sort of business.
there's a possibility that I was thinking of maybe like 2.
Okay.
That seem to have would be profitable enough that they could invest, so.
Sure.
Right. And then really for like city council meetings, I mean, depending on what it is, but, you know, maybe that, some agreement with,
Yeah.
if we put in the parking lot, that we can share that space during evening hours or something like, I don't,
Mhm.
all that can, the detail stuff, but, yeah.
Okay.
Our code, you know, would dictate how many parking spaces each business type activity would need. And so it could be, as I said, a combination where it's a business activity, but it doesn't, not customer focused, and that a lot of people are coming and going. And maybe there's a combination of that works, gets us everything we want. It could be like Christmas.
Could be,
There's also a possibility that they may want to demo a portion of it, so it reduce the size of the building, reduce the
Yeah.
parking needs, so.
yeah.
I'll just say, yes, hosting meetings during the day is very challenging. We have this beautiful building, big spaces where we can host, but parking, is a problem even when we have staff move. And if we grow our staff ever, then, but we can get you more specific examples
Yeah,
too.
did, Zignago sell that parcel over here?
We think so.
It was sold.
It was sold?
Mm.
Do we know what, somebody's looking at putting something there?
Talking to staff, it sounds like it's gonna be like a office.
Office space, okay. Well, I know the cost of that was prohibitive, at least in my line of thinking, to put in parking. That was brought forward, and I was like, well, for that price, no, I don't think so. So, we do have a really, it's not a cheap piece of property
Yeah.
where it's located. It's a little problematic in its access and location by which it's surrounded, but, it's worth something, and even if we figure out that at the end of the day it is parking, it's, you know, it is what it is, but
Is there any reason we don't allow parking on Laverne Avenue in front of City Hall?
it's both sides are no parking. I'm
We let-
thinking part of that's probably, fire access to and from
I'm just
the
saying, you know,
vehicles.
parking on one side,
Yeah, it seems wide enough, I don't know.
seems
if the
wide
width-
enough that, you know,
I know the only time we talked is just making sure we had enough clearance coming in and out. I don't recall where we landed on why it's on one side or the other. I mean, for our open house, we applied for a permit to block the signs. I mean,
Right,
You wouldn't want it during school, pick up and drop off.
right, I mean, right now
The entire
with the school building,
yeah,
Yes.
but I mean, that's gonna go
Think
away
it-
next year.
I think to relook at that when the school's not there is probably a good time to do that. I think
Yeah,
it was probably signed no parking because of the school.
Cool.
could have been.
I mean, look, right in front of City Hall, I don't know how the school parking would affect that.
No, it's
The-
not
the-
school parking,
the
it's
pickup.
the pickup in the afternoon.
Pick up and drop off,
Come over here at, what is it,
7:30
3
and
o'clock
3 o'clock.
or
it's-
7:30 in the morning, and the cars are around the corner.
Oh, they're backed up.
They're backed up.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
if you added parking on one side,
You block the
that
street.
narrows that and people
Yep,
can't get
gotcha.
by.
Gotcha, Mayor.
Yeah.
I haven't been here those times, so.
Yeah, yeah,
It's an experience.
yeah. We've tried to work with the school district on kind of their flow and stuff, but it really has never gotten better. Not saying, you know, I think, and it really got worse, after COVID, when parents did all the dropping off and weren't really using the
Okay.
bus system and
I
stuff
just,
like that.
thank you, I just wasn't aware of that, because I keep looking and saying, I wonder why you don't allow parking on one side.
Yeah, so that's something we could look at when the new school's
Yep.
open, fall of '26.
Or we could just,
Certainly.
make it, our administrative staff's additional duties to direct traffic during busy times.
I have had to do that during meetings when they're like, we don't have anywhere to park. I'm like, just find somewhere. I don't know. Yes, I have been out there.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you,
Thanks,
Jason.
Jason.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 4 is open burning permits review. Chief Kalis.
We don't have a formal presentation, just wanted to spend some time to have a discussion on our open burning ordinance and kind of give you an update where we're at and kind of where we came from since we updated the ordinance in April of 2022. Back then, there was a need to really clean up and streamline our open burning permit process and create a much smoother application permit application process for these open burning permits and create some checks and balances in there where we could do site visits, make sure we have the proper terminology and ordinance for revocation of these applications to control these open burnings. And open burning are basically larger fires, piled debris, piled brush. This isn't recreational fires. We're not talking about the backyard 3x3 bonfire. So that we don't have a permit for that. We're not asking for a permit for those types of fires, but just to kind of have a better discussion of where we're at for open burning. Open burning we see in the city in some of our agricultural areas where they're clearing fields and clearing old trees and down trees. They stockpile, a season's worth of material, apply for a permit. They want to burn in the wintertime, burn a large period. Pile. We see a lot of our HOAs do prairie restorations or burns for some of their open areas, and we see a lot of success with that. That's real important for those to be done to kind of eliminate wildfire hazards, things like that. We do a lot of open burning permits with Washington County and the Park Reserve to keep those risks down. So there's a lot of good with open burning, but what we've seen in the past few years is a handful of challenging calls as we've become more dense and more populated around some of our, as we lose some of our rural agricultural areas where we probably have some legacy burners and permit holders. We're getting some pushback from other residents due to smoke concerns, nuisance requests, or nuisance concerns about those fires and the conditions that are around them. The last one that kind of brought us to today and getting this in front of you, we had a request for one of the Prairie Sky townhomes. They had a permit to burn an old pile of debris that was on the site. And the way our current ordinance is written, we really couldn't deny it. They were completely code compliant when they made the application. It wasn't until they started burning, the wind conditions changed, started blowing smoke across 14. They wanted to add a lot of live debris, fresh cut debris to it, which created a smoke nuisance. So we revoked that permit, stopped the burning, and that kind of said, that's not the intent of what our open burning permit is for. But we're coming to you tonight to kind of get some more information and a little better direction. We've got some options. I'm going to have Assistant Chief Savoda kind of talk about what we've seen over the past few years as we've collected data, kind of talk about the current process, and then kind of our options for discussion or direction after that. Turn it over to you.
Awesome. So I think it's important that we just kind of go back a little bit and talk about the process in general, just so you all have an understanding about what our community members go through when they try to get a permit or apply for a permit. So really we have three different types. We have the people who apply and comply. They come in, they get a permit, they pay for it. I go out, I do a site visit. We make sure that all the things that they're burning comply with the city ordinance. They're not doing anything that's prohibited. They get their permit, they have their fire, and we don't have any issues. So they apply and they comply. We have a handful of people that stop into City Hall, give me a phone call, send me an email that want to apply for a burn permit. Or they come and turn one in, and I go out and look, and they don't comply. So they have items in their pile that are prohibited. It's very clear on the city's ordinance website what they can and cannot have in there. It's very clear on our application process about what they can and cannot have, but they still turn them in anyway, thinking that they're going to get their burn permit, and they're paying us, and we're not refunding that in that situation. So they apply, and then they're denied. And then the third one, and this is where we start to have a lot of the issues come in, is people who don't apply whether they know they need a permit or not, they just choose not to do it, or those who don't comply with the rules that we've set forth even after we've gone out and done a site visit. For example, in a really accelerated case, we had a person who applied for a burn permit, They were granted that burn permit, and then they hired somebody to come and do the burning for them, who lit 10 large brush piles on the property on fire at the same time, which was not the plan at all. Triggered a massive fire response, and that person caused a lot of problems for the city. I think Mayor's nodding his head. I think he remembers that individual. Caused a lot of problems for us for like a week worth of time on dealing with that. So that's an extreme, but I'm seeing more and more frequently, people are applying for burn permits, especially in the Old Village area. There are more of the newer residential areas where there's absolutely no way we're going to issue a permit for that. They're trying to pile things up up by sheds, smoke dissipating into neighborhoods, too close to the property line, things of that nature. So I think the discussion that we want to have is, as the city grows, we really want to make sure that we're continuing to set the stage appropriately with being safe about open burning. And that goes from the perspective of, are they doing it appropriately within the means of the permit itself and following the rules that we've set forth? But also, are they being a good neighbor? That's a huge part of what it is that we're trying to do with this as well. So I guess, I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at some of the recommendations that we proposed, but, an extreme would be just to eliminate all open burning through the entire city in its in the city's entirety. Well, that's not fair. First of all, we have a lot of people that, like I said, apply and comply. They've been doing it for years. They have maybe a large acreage or something, or a farm field where they've been piling things up and burning, and we've never had any complaints. They do it safely. There's no reason for us to punish those people for doing something that they've been doing appropriately for a long period of time. So, although it is an option, I don't think it is the best option for what we want to try to do. Number two, and what's more favorable, is to potentially restrict open burning in certain areas of the city. Maybe areas that are considered residential, the newer village, or the old village, some of the newer neighborhoods, things of that nature. Kind of reduces the likelihood of us having those nuisance calls, but then still gives people the opportunity that have the space to do it. The only thing that we would want to make sure we keep as an exception with that option is prairie restorations. So currently, we only ever allow people to do prairie restorations that hire a licensed contractor, just because of the dangers that's associated with being close to structures and running fire and things like that. So they're only ever allowed to hire a contractor to do that work now. We allow that to continue.
I did get a couple calls, mainly a couple people in the agricultural area, and they were, they liked number two. And I think that's, we always, like you said, there's the extreme case, right? And I don't think we want a knee-jerk reaction as to a couple bad actors out there that create a problem for others that are doing the right thing, right?
Right.
So I'm in favor of number two, to restrict it like rural residential agricultural, those people that, they do have brush and they're doing a cleanup, or they got a bunch of buckthorn they're taking care of, right?
Yep.
They wanna get rid of it, I think that's fine, and, having a licensed, prairie restoration company do that, they're licensed, bonded, all that stuff, they know
Right.
what they're doing.
And I think the prairie restoration is almost kind of part two.
Yeah,
That needs to happen anywhere there's a prairie. We
Yeah.
don't want to restrict that just based on residential zoning. That has to happen throughout
Right.
our community. We just want to make sure that it's being done by a contractor.
are there any penalties, or when, let's say you go out and you do a check, and they've got things in their pile that aren't supposed to be in there, they do it anyway?
Yeah.
Is there a fine associated with that, or?
If we're able to catch them, if we're able to go out and do a site inspection and we see that they've got a mattress or a furniture or whatever in there, we're gonna say, before this goes, you have to pull this out.
Yeah.
We can't guarantee later on that it doesn't come back. We were just chasing 3 mattress fires the other day with black smoke as they were sitting in the backyard burning stuff. So we do our best in that moment to not allow it or prohibit it until it gets removed from the pile. If the fire is going on and we see that other debris is being burnt, we'll have the sheriff's department cite them and then let it go through the Washington County
Sure.
court process for, fines and through the citation process at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a right way to do it, and, at least a couple people that called me, I believe that they're, they act in good faith and they do the right thing, and so that would be my preference, is, the suggestion for number 2.
And kind of what we were also thinking too, it's not in the report, but when any change is made, and again, we're not in an absolute hurry to do this, we don't have to, there's no set deadline. We would want to kind of sunset this or set this ordinance change to happen. And if we moved and said, we'll come to you in a couple months with an updated ordinance, I wouldn't ask to have this take effect until like January of '27. I want to give those full people a full year's worth of time or a full season's worth of time of understanding that something they've been doing for years is going to change. We have plenty of properties, like you said, that abide by the code and follow along and build a burn pile for 8 months out of the year, planning for the February burn.
Okay.
So we want to give those people some time, and we've got to take the time to get out and educate folks and put it in newsletters and get it out in front of people as well. No matter what we do, no matter what we have in place now, it's an education piece. We've got to work hard to keep educating people on the rights and the wrongs. And regardless of what we have on the books, people are they're gonna burn things. That's kind of unavoidable if they're compliant or not, but we'll give our best effort.
Sounds reasonable and well thought out.
And with option 2,
Others?
so with option 2 are the kind of the individuals you're saying that, have done this for years, done it the right way. With option 2, they would be no longer able to.
No, option 2, if they're in an agricultural area or a rural residential area, more than likely, if they've been compliant, they'll continue to stay
Got
compliant.
it.
They'll
So
be
most of
able
these cases
to,
that you're kind of
to
thinking
apply
about
for the permit.
the people that
It's-
have done it. And
We're probably gonna eliminate, a handful of what we would consider legacy permit holders, just based on their proximity to other homes, whether they're thrilled that those homes are there or not. But that's kind of I would say in order to keep it for the majority, we're gonna have to, take it away from, a small group.
And then for those individuals, it's, you gotta haul this away.
And that's, a lot of the burning we do is just simply out of convenience. They just don't want to take that trip to the yard waste site. And, we're not, the big piles where you're like, we get it, it's, truly this has just kind of turned into, really a convenience thing. It's nice to just be able to burn and not take the time to haul it away when, really, we're still, we're on that buffer of rural, residential, open space, not open space. We go a couple miles to the west, there's no way that, open burning isn't a thing,
Is it a time of certain seasonality to this too? I mean, is it, the times of the spring and the fall?
Right now,
yard
with
cleanups going on,
elevated
or-
fire risks, anytime we issue a permit, we're monitoring the DNR website. If the DNR, changes fire conditions, we don't allow activations of permits. We put restrictions on when they can be done. Winter's a great time, and a lot of our legacy burners do that, in that, wait for that February burn, so we get a good snow cover, and they're ready for it. That's what I mean. There's,
But you're not getting all the permit requests essentially in fall and spring during cleanup time. and
most of them, most are fall and spring. Yeah, that's when we get the most of them.
And I don't know, I know there's certain cities that look at doing some of the waste pickup, around those heavy
I think that's the
spring, fall, if the fall time of year especially.
that, if we did a brush cleanup, that would help residents, but they still have to load it up and haul it to Public Works or somewhere. Once you haul it up, you've got 3 options. You can go to,
Or,
Hugo, Forest Lake, you can go down to the new site, wherever it's gonna be, and
And again, maybe this is just, it's not something this city can do, but I know there's cities that, you put everything out in the front yard and a service comes in, picks it up and brings it to the site.
Yeah, there are brush cleanup companies that would could totally do that work, yeah.
And so maybe, I don't know, I guess if that's maybe something that, you know, hey, if we're gonna take it away, and maybe that's
I
too how much of a
I don't wanna
lift.
speak for Public Works and what that would take for staff and time, but I can only imagine.
Or if it
that.
sounds like, you know, potentially if it can be contracted out.
I think the big piece to this is just the convenience of the resident, and it's just a lot easier to burn stuff sometimes. Yeah.
I'm on board with 2.
I'm on board with 2.
Same here.
Yeah,
I
same.
think 2 sounds good.
All right.
We'll come back in the future with kind of an updated ordinance around what we talk about with option 2, and we'll come back to you at a later date.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as far as future agenda, I think next week we have last council meeting of the month. We have a few things that are on the regular agenda. We'll be going through street and utility public improvement hearing. We'll talk about some solar at the landfill site. High Point Crossing is coming back with a comprehensive plan amendment. And the Limerick Village EAW is coming in, so. I want to adopt final assessment role for 2025 street and utility improvements along with the Stillwater Area School District utility improvements. So with that, we'll adjourn this evening's meeting at, well, let's call it 8 o'clock. Thank you.